So it being on or about 6:30, I call the February 12th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission to order. This meeting is being conducted remotely. Commissioners can participate remotely and their votes and presence counts towards a quorum. Let's begin with a roll call vote.
Benson present.
Carol present.
Spady present.
Seeing how we have a quorum, let's call our first projects. 23 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 1, Notice of Intent for the construction of a single-family home.
I don't see anyone here for that yet. I would anticipate they would be coming.
Yeah, and that would follow for
Correct.
the second order of business, which is 29 Owl Ridge. Do we have anybody here for 48 Pond?
Oh, hold on. Stephanie, oh yeah, Eric Diaz is here. Hang on.
Eric's not for the Owl Ridge, right? He's for the Pond Street.
On Street, correct.
Okay, so then we'll call both 23 Owl and 29 Owl Ridge after 48 Pond Street and see if the applicants show up. So we'll call 48 Pond Street, request for determination of applicability for demolition and new single-family construction.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Fantastic. So I am in an undisclosed location tonight, super secret spy stuff. So Stephanie Hoban from my office is on, and she's going to share the plan.
Okay.
I don't know if Robert and or Rachel Stetson have made it on. They may be in the audience. They are the applicant. They said they were a maybe.
Stephanie's joining us now.
Excellent.
And I don't see your clients in the attendees list, but if they show up, we'll add them.
Okay, great. So I am looking at the plan. I assume you folks can see it as well.
Yes, but can you zoom in so we can read it a little clearer?
Yes. Steph, can you zoom in on the plan view, please? While she's doing that, let me just say, for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering, here tonight representing Robert and Rachel Stetson at 48 Pond Street. This is a pretty straightforward project. It is the tear down and rebuild of an existing single family dwelling on the site. The site is across the street from Shovel Shop Pond. And there is a small tributary stream to the east. So we do fall within kind of the outer limits of the resource areas, but we are separated from the resource areas by an existing roadway. So we thought in this case, an RDA probably made the most sense here. The existing house will be torn down, foundation removed, new foundation installed, rebuilt in approximately the same footprint. Nothing really changes or gets closer in the front yard. In the rear yard, in the existing condition, is a shallow cesspool that, as you know, we obviously always try to eliminate because they don't do a great job of protecting groundwater. We are replacing that with a modernized system. I didn't want to say fully compliant because we do have some ZBA relief as far as setbacks to foundations and things like that. But it is a new tank, new pump chamber, new soil absorption field, everything, start to finish. So definitely a benefit there. We have also gone as far as adding erosion controls along the front property lines and the side property lines and the construction entrance. Just to help with sediment control. Excuse me, I shouldn't have called it erosion control. Jen, please don't get me. And, you know, we did also provide a temporary stockpiling detail. We did not designate a location for stockpiling on the site only because this is kind of a postage stamp. They're going to need the ability to do this in stages. If, for example, if we stockpile where the septic system is going to go, then we obviously are going to have to move that at some point. So we didn't want to lock them in anywhere in particular. Just wanted to give them some flexibility, but definitely give at least some minimum requirements on how to keep this under control. So really, that is it. Glad to expand any further, but I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Eric. I think a lot of this makes sense. Jen, any staff comment?
My only comment is that the plan does need a surveyor's stamp on it. Yeah, unless
Yes, we can definitely take care of that
Okay.
and just submit a finalized plan to the office.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions from members of the commission on this?
I'm good.
Eric, I assume you and your client would like to close?
Yes, sir, please.
Any public comment on 48 Pond Street? Motion to close the public hearing on 48 Pond Street.
Second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Motion to issue a request for determination of applicability, noting +5 under the Wetland Protection Act, as well as a -3 and a -2 under the bylaw. Did I get that all, Jen?
You did, perfect.
Second.
Carol motion, Spady second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess I'll just head back up here before we move away from public hearings. Have the applicants for 23 Owl Ridge showed?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll recall 23 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 1. Notice of intent for the construction of a single-family home.
Come along.
Garrett, we can see you. We cannot hear you. Garrett, we can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear us. Still nothing yet. It actually looks like your microphone is unmuted, so I'm wondering if you're having an issue with the mic you're using. There should be a way, if that continues to give you trouble, to call into the meeting. Nothing yet. So if you look at the top of the agenda, it shows you the telephone number you asked to call into this meeting. So you can engage with a cell phone and then show your plans on whatever device you're using now, if that's at all helpful. We got another few minutes, and if we can't make it work, we'll call him again after 102 Eastman Street. I just suspect that might be a little bit longer of a presentation. So I want to give him an opportunity to be heard before we moved on. But Jennifer, I'm not the organizer. Do you have the ability to click on his name and ask turn off mic, turn on mic? I wonder if something like that would be helpful.
I don't see that as a option.
Okay.
Yeah, but actually, now that you bring it up, we will make you a co-host.
Perfect. So I can mute Garrett, and then I'll prompt him to unmute. So Garrett, you should have a button that maybe appeared on your screen. Still nothing? I think you might have a bad microphone, maybe like a pair of headphones you could plug in to whatever you're using. It might be also an issue under permissions in your device. If you go to settings, click Zoom, and ask it and allow it to use your microphone. So we can't hear you. Garrett, hold on. Participant enabled closed captioning. Nothing. Garrett, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm gonna call you after 102 Eastman Street, and maybe if you switch devices or something along there, or add a new microphone, something like that might help. I apologize for the hold up here. So I'll call the next order of business of the Conservation Commission under continued hearings and possible deliberations, 102 Eastman Street. Notice of intent for improvements to a liquefied natural gas storage facility, including construction/reconstruction of buildings.
Hi, we actually have Tim Grace and Amanda who will be presenting this. So if you could promote them, Jen.
Yep.
Thank you.
We can see your screen, but we can't see you or hear you yet. Tim, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
Oh, now we good?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. I am Timothy Grace from Ty and Bond, and I believe I'm joined by Amanda Houle, as well as Jen Bottaro from Eversource. And Amanda's having a Zoom issue right now. So I'm just going to move ahead. So we're here to talk to you about 102 Eastman Street. We were back in front of the board quite a few months ago. This is basically life safety improvements to the existing LNG facility that's located at 102 Eastman Street. It involves construction of an electrical building, a control building, a maintenance building, an OPP facility, and then some stormwater improvements, some pretty significant stormwater improvements as part of the project. So this is the site as it exists right now. This street up here is Eastman Street, and it's essentially, like I said, an LNG facility. The current control building is a very small building here. There's only a couple outbuildings on the site right now. And then it's mostly a paved driveway area, and then obviously the tank and the tank impoundment. Quick overview of what's being proposed. So this is that existing LNG tank that was in the picture before. We're basically proposing an electrical building, a control building, a maintenance building with driveway and parking lot, and then the entire east half of the site is dedicated to stormwater management. I guess I should note too that none of this has anything to do with like increasing capacity of the facility or anything like that. This is all just life safety upgrades that are part of Eversource's master plan for the sites they acquired in the past few years. Very typical for what they're doing at the rest of their sites. So the following resource areas were delineated in the vicinity of the facility. We're basically surrounded by 3 different wetlands that are labeled two different wetlands, BVW1 and BVW2, 1 inland bank, 2 bordering vegetated wetlands. There's 1 intermittent stream on the west side of the property that actually feeds BVW2. There is land subject to flooding. There's a 100-foot buffer zone to the riverfront area that's shown on here in orange, as well as a 50-foot buffer zone to the wetland that's shown in red. There's also a 100-foot ACEC buffer that's shown on the plans that doesn't appear on this particular figure. These resource areas are subject to the Mass Wetlands Protection Act. All resource areas are subject to the local jurisdiction of the town and Eastern Wetlands Protection Bylaw and regulations. And so this is basically a shot of our site plan with those buffer zones superimposed on them. So the red is the 50-foot buffer. These orange are 100-foot. And then this blue one here is the 200-foot riverfront. And then the green one is the ACEC buffer. And those buffers are also carried over, if you look on this side of the plan here, blue being 200-foot riverfront, 100 being the orange one here, and then the red one. And these are basically just the buffer zones to those BVWs that were on the figure previously. Resource area impacts. So buffer zone riverfront area, 0 square feet in the 0 to 50-foot range, 12,430 in the 50 to 100, 1,355 in the 100 to 200, and then within the 100-200 ACEC buffer, there's 19,525. Only work within the 100-foot buffer zone is subject to the Mass Wetland Protection Act. The remaining work is under the jurisdiction of the town's wetland bylaw. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a type 1 intermittent stream on the west of the project. It is provided a 200-foot riverfront area under the local bylaw. And as such, an alternatives analysis was previously performed for this area. This is a quick summary of the overall impacts for the 0 to 100 foot, the 100 to 200 foot, and then the total riverfront area impacts. Some of these impacts occur partially within cleared and grubbed areas and are not in addition to the existing clearing grubbing impacts that we have. And then let me see. So stormwater management, that's what I'm going to talk about next. This part of the project has probably the greatest measurable impact on the surrounding wetlands and the buffer zones just because of the improvements we're making as part of this project. The facility was constructed in like 1971, somewhere around there, but it was at a time when nobody considered stormwater management, right? So this being an industrial site, the facility lacks any sort of stormwater management system or formal stormwater management system. So under existing conditions, this is that front entrance area that I talked about earlier, I pointed out earlier. And these are the drainage areas that we delineated based on survey and then site observations of that area. And you can see basically everything on the west side of this existing driveway runs along the property line here or along the fence line and discharges basically completely untreated into the existing wetland that is on that side of the site. And then the other half, this eastern portion, discharges into the existing LNG containment collection system, which outlets down here in this concrete structure. And then eventually what happens is it's pumped out into this earthen impoundment. And I'll get to a better slide to show you that. So from this point here, where basically all the stormwater is collected, it's pumped out into this tank impoundment, where it eventually trickles down, migrates to the low point, and then at that point, someone in facilities, after that fills up a certain amount, it gets pumped out again to this wetland that abuts the site. And so that's under existing conditions. And basically all of that goes away as part of the proposed improvements to this project. So you can see in these pictures here, this is the tank impoundment. And then this is a picture of the western perimeter fence. And you can see, just looking at this picture, there's a significant amount of washout that's happening along that property line. And this is actually a little pipe that the previous facility owners put in so that the water would collect along the fence here and then travel under the fence into that same collection area. And the big upgrade for this site is basically the stormwater management improvements that we're making to it. The first one being a new trench drain across the southern edge of the existing driveway area. So along this edge here, we're putting that trench drain essentially in front of this building all the way to the other collection point, and collecting all of the runoff that's associated with this paved area. Not just the runoff associated with our project, which exists right over here, the electrical building, but all of this existing impervious that's currently untreated that flows into the wetland, we're collecting in a trench drain, and we're sending it all with the rest of this runoff into this concrete impoundment here. The other big upgrade is we're not pumping that out anymore into this tank impoundment. Sorry, skipping around. We're no longer pumping any of the storm water into this area here where it eventually migrates to the low point and gets pumped out. We've provided 2 dedicated infiltration basins on the site. The bigger one you can kind of see here. So we're basically, rather than pump into the tank impoundment untreated stormwater, we're taking that stormwater and we're pumping it into sediment forebays for pretreatment and then into the infiltration basin for infiltration and then treatment. And we're actually holding back the 100-year storm in that basin itself. So there's no discharges of untreated stormwater going into the wetlands anymore, which is a big upgrade, especially for an industrial site like this. And so some numbers real quick, you can see the 2-year storm, cubic feet per second, 49% reduction for the 2-year, 45% reduction for the 10-year, and a 42% reduction for the 100-year. So that's significant reductions in discharges. Again, this is just that western half of the site where I was talking about that untreated stormwater. 49%, no longer being sent to that area under the 2-year storm. And so the proposed site work for the project will provide significant improvements to the quality and quantity of runoff from the project site. Like I mentioned, all direct discharges to the wetlands from the impervious areas are completely eliminated in accordance with section 200-1D2 of the Easton Stormwater Bylaw. The system achieves the 90% TSS and the 60% phosphorus removal that's required as per under that bylaw. And then the design fully meets the Massachusetts stormwater standards for new development. And in summary, so the proposed project modernizes the existing LNG facility, ensuring continued reliability of the natural gas to utilities in the Easton community. The design of the facility improvements maintain no disturb buffers and limit new alteration to areas to the least extent practicable. The proposed work will only occur within the buffered zone, wetland and ACEC and riverfront area, a portion of which is already developed as part of the existing facility. The stormwater management systems treat the facility runoff on the site while reducing the rate and increasing the quality of runoff into the adjacent buffers. And the stormwater design has been peer reviewed and all comments have been addressed. And there will be no direct impacts to the wetlands as a result of this project, and proposed work is not expected to impair habitat functions or water quality of the greater surrounding forested and wetland areas. And I think that, yep, so that is it. Happy to answer any questions you folks have.
I think the questions that we asked last time had a lot to do with the flow of water, and I think what happens if there's some type of a leak in the tank. And I think it was explained to us that that's not really how natural gas works, and it sort of evaporates upward. Would you mind, just because we're here and it's been a while, just explaining some of the fail safes in place in the event that there were to be a breach of some kind back there that wouldn't wind up in the infiltration system that you just so very well explained to us?
So the biggest thing is the pumps that we're putting into that existing impoundment that I was just talking about. They actually have low-level sensors on them, so in the presence of LNG, the pumps won't activate, because if there is LNG mixed in with any of the storm water, it'll be, say, below 40 degrees or something like that, and the pumps physically won't turn on. That's one of the fail-safes. The bigger, I guess, fail-safe that Eversource has as a policy is nobody's allowed to just go out and flick a switch and start a pump. They have an internal policy where before those pumps are activated, whoever's operating the control room that day has to physically go out there, look into the impoundment, and make sure there's no LNG, and then they can start the pumps and start the cycle. You were just talking about earlier, as far as the temperature of the LNG, that's probably one of the biggest fail safes. Is that, if you breach a tank like this, I think it's kept at negative 273 degrees. So if that happens, as soon as it comes out, it would come out in the consistency of, say, a slushy. And then as soon as the air hits it, it starts to vaporize immediately. Now, regardless of that fact, they still have to provide containment as if that stuff stayed liquid and basically flowed. And so the thing that's, I believe, is regulated by the DPU, the Department of Public Utilities, that's where the size of this impoundment comes in. That's based off the capacity of the tank. And not only that, but there's a trench drain system. I don't know if I can show it to you better on a different picture. No, it's the same picture. But there's a trench drain system that exists in that fueling area that goes down and basically feeds this trench as well. So there's a number of ways that if something were to happen, it would get collected and mitigated. But I guess the biggest thing is that there's, at this facility anyway, there's always going to be human eyes on it before a pump is started.
Okay. Jennifer, staff comment?
We had 3 peer review letters come from our peer reviewer, John Chesia. So Tim, do you want to just describe the last 2 items and how you made adjustments for that?
Yeah, so the last 2, let me think. So the last 2 was about a valve. Yep, so the shutoff valve for the infiltration basin, which I could show you so the basin here. Oh no, I'm sorry.
We're not sharing anymore.
Oh.
You'd have to start sharing screen again.
Sorry, here I am pointing to things and you guys can't see it.
When we start discussion, I stop sharing so we can see each other.
We're looking at a site photo.
Looking at a site photo, perfect. So this infiltration basin here actually has an under drain in it. In case, like, worst case scenario, that thing completely fouls and it's not infiltrating water anymore, you can actually open the valve in this perforated pipe so that it's almost like an emergency drawdown of the basin. You can get the water out of the basin, then you can repair the bottom of the basin. And so that was one of John's later comments. We talked about the location of that valve. The other one was some outlet control measures that we put in, where we essentially put plunge pools into where these pipes come out, so that as the water gets discharged, it hits the plunge pool, the velocity is dissipated, and then it kind of fills up and overtops that plunge pool and trickles into the basin a lot gentler than if it were just coming out of a pipe. And so I believe those were the 2 big outstanding issues we had from the last round of peer review comments. But John's been great. We've gone back and forth a number of times with this system, and we've resized it a couple times. We've finessed it, and it's a huge upgrade for an industrial site like this. I've been doing this 14 years, and I've never worked on a site where we've been able to provide a reduction of that amount from any site. I mean, a commercial site would be impressive, but from an industrial site like this, to be able to hit those numbers is huge.
That's great, thank you. And then I know we received revised plans today.
You did, yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a note that the cover sheet says February 6th, but there are other plans that are dated later, so if you could put the revised plan date on that cover sheet. And
On the
just
cover sheet, yep. Yeah, I think we only
I'll swap
revised.
it out.
Yeah, we only put revision dates on the sheets themselves, but yes, I could absolutely get you a revised cover sheet.
Thank you, because we don't want to type out each and every sheet and the plan date.
Gotcha.
We reference the plan set with the most recent date. That's much easier for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Comments from members of the commission? Questions?
No, I'm good. That was great. Thank you.
Any public comment for 102 Eastman Street? All right, seeing none, I assume you'd like to close?
Yes, please, that would be great.
Motion to close the public hearing for 102 Eastman Street.
Spadia, second.
Carol motion, Spadia second, roll call vote.
Benson and I.
Carol, aye.
Spadia, aye.
All right, motion to issue an order of conditions and permit for work for 102 Eastman Street.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson and I.
Carol, aye.
Spadia, aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
So I'm gonna go back up to 23 Owl Ridge and see if we can't make that work. So again, this is a notice of intent for the construction of a single family home, 23 Owl Ridge, Lot 1. Garrett, we can see you, but we can't hear you still. Nothing.
Now,
Yep, you're on.
oh, good. Okay.
Look at us.
Sorry about that. I
No
apologize.
worries. No worries.
Basically, what we have before you are, as a notice of intent for 23 Owl Ridge. I'm Garrett Tunison from Tunison Environmental Consultants. And this notice of intent is more for administrative purposes as we filed for the subdivision. But there was a slight change on Lot 1. The roof area changed from 1,744 square feet, which is what was proposed under the subdivision notice of intent, to 2,028 square feet. So it was a slight increase of 284 square feet. The driveway also changed. It's gone down, actually. It was proposed under the subdivision notice of intent was 708 square feet, and it has been reduced to 696 square feet, so a reduction of 12 square feet. The difference here is, yes, the client is asking for a slight increase in roof size, but since we're providing that, we are mitigating for that area, and for basically the entire roof would be collected through, the downspouts will go into Coltech infiltration chambers. Then there's greater than 2 feet separation at all locations. We verified that as far as separation of groundwater. Some areas are closer to 4 feet, so we definitely have the 2+ feet separation.
Garrett, do you have a plan you want to show us?
Sorry, Chair?
A plan you would like to show us?
I'm actually on my phone. I have not been able to pull up anything. I'm not connected to my server. So they should be, the groundwater elevation should be on the plan. Let me see which one's which.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to close tonight without showing the plan for either the commission or the public to view.
Do you have that, Jen? Can you screen share it?
I don't have that. I'm not connected to the town website.
Okay. Some reason it is not letting me, oops, nope. It is not letting me connect. Pull it off my email, but I don't think it's. So I'm pulling that up right now. February. This. So I'm pulling it up right now. If I can see if I can.
Take your time.
Everything's stripped. Let's see if I can show.
I'm trying to pull it up too. Hold on a Jared, any luck?
No, I apologize.
It's okay.
So I have it on my server, but I can't access my server from here. And I usually use my laptop, but somebody hacked into my laptop, ratware, so ransomware. And I basically threw the laptop out because I can't use it anymore. So I am replacing it, but I apologize. I'm using my phone right now, and for some reason I cannot connect. It's kind of a delicate way I have to get into my server. It's through the internet, but it's just bouncing me. And I'm trying to get to my emails, and I can't get it off my email either, which is frustrating.
So no, it's okay. I think just given Jennifer's point, I think it's accurate that it's hard to close without being able to show the plans on the screen to members of the public here. Frank Rivlin has raised his hand. See if we can bring him up. Who's sharing this?
Yes, do you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Frank? Yeah.
Okay, I have the plan on my screen. I'm trying to see if I can get it up to share it with you.
We can see something.
You see something, but do you see the plan?
I see a set of plans. It's in, I think it might be like a CAD file.
Okay,
It's not our typical PDF that we see.
okay, let me see if I get the CAD file, or excuse me, the PDF in front of me.
We're making progress here. We're gonna get this done.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. This does not.
No, that also says Boundary Street on it.
Okay, then if it says Founder Street, that's not the right project. Sorry about that. Because the one that I'm looking at right now in front of
Oh,
my,
there you go. Hold on.
Here we are.
all right, got it.
Thank you. Maybe just zoom in a little bit so it's easier to read. That's great. Thank you, Frank.
Zoom in.
If you can. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Garrett can continue.
Okay, so as you can see from the plan, actually I'm pulling up the wrong one on my system, so okay, I got the right one. With the house, the wastewater system, leaching field, is located to the upper left-hand side of the plan there on the lot. And then going across from left to right, you will see to the right, basically on the right side of the house, you will see infiltrate. That is the location of the Coltech chambers for the front side of the house. So if you look further to the south or down towards the lower right-hand corner of the house, you will see a separate unit that says, separate area, rectangle, it says infiltrate. Those are the other Coltech chambers. So we have those two for this dwelling. So basically, those are the areas where we would infiltrate the stormwater. The driveway is not included, but when we had the previous notice of intent for the subdivision, neither the driveway or the roof area were being infiltrated. So this is the improvement from the previous notice of intent. So we are now actually picking up the entire roof area through and infiltrating it. So that's the difference from the old notice of intent to the current one. So it's a little bit larger, yes, but we're mitigating, and we're not just mitigating for the 284 square feet. We're mitigating for the full 2,028 square feet for the roof area. So we're picking up a lot more impervious.
Hold on. So the roof and the impervious surface for all of the houses is not included in the original stormwater management? That has
In the
to be-
original stormwater management, it was going down onto Owl Ridge Road and out into the, it was being cleansed, Jen. It was going through the, there was like a vortex or, storm scepter type unit that was, taking out a lot of the, settling the solids. And then they were hooded. There was a, I think oil water separator. And then it was being discharged into the large stormwater basin. Anything that wasn't being infiltrated, those were, large infiltration stormwater basins. So the overflow was going into the large vegetated, there's two of them, but they were from the road, it was going into the large vegetated stormwater basin in the northwest portion of the subdivision. So it wasn't going, anywhere other than being collected and infiltrated those locations. So now we're taking this roof out and we're actually infiltrating it, not going through the whole stormwater system and into the basin, we're just infiltrating it right here. So we are disconnecting it from the subdivision stormwater management system.
Okay, I thought you were
So
saying
that,
included it all previously, which
Yes.
didn't make any sense. So you have an increase and you're now treating that as well.
yes, so we're actually taking more away than what we were proposing initially and infiltrating it here.
Okay.
That's
And
the betterment.
the numbers that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, they didn't quite match what you have in your notice of intent.
The,
Through those again?
yes, those were updated in the NOI update, and it was referenced to the waiver request.
Okay,
So it's in the waiver request where it states this.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Natural heritage.
Yes, so basically, we did submit to Natural Heritage and we sent you the, we put it up on the website as part of the notice of intent. We included the certified mailing for proof that we did mail it. I did also put the letter up there. I don't know if they're going to respond. The reason being is we went through the full project review and the, mitigation, the conservation and management plan, the CMP, with them. And then we actually, there were comments through MEPA, through the ENF and the SEIR. So I don't know if there's gonna be further comments. We did after that as well, we had to do turtle sweeps. So I went out and I did those and I updated again. Updated them. So they signed off on that so that we could start our construction. So I don't know if they're going to comment on these or not. In my letter, and I did put that online as well. I did upload it
Garrett.
to Permanized just so everyone could see what was in there.
Garrett,
Yeah.
yeah, we have the answer.
Okay.
Okay, so I emailed them this morning, let them know there was a meeting tonight and you already had a CMP. So you have a no-take letter provided you follow the conditions of the CMP. So the commission has everything we need to close this public hearing.
Perfect.
Yes.
Questions from commissioners? Seeing none, any questions from members of the public regarding 23 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 1? Seeing none again, Garrett, I assume you'd like to close.
Yes, please.
Motion to close public hearing on 23 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 1, notice of intent.
Any second?
Carol motion, Spadia second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Motion to issue order of conditions and permit for work for 23 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 1, notice of intent.
Second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Now, turning to our next one, Garrett, 29 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 2. Any chance we could put those plans up?
Is Frank still there?
Frank's still
I'm
here.
Still here. Let me see if I can pull those up.
Thank you, Frank.
Garrett, while Frank does that, will you just tell us what, if anything, is
Yes.
different here?
Yes, so basically this notice of intent is similar to the last, same thing. It's an administrative notice of intent. This was all covered under the subdivision previously. The only change is that we've, the square footage of the roof, again, has increased slightly. It's changed from 2,016 square feet under the previous subdivision notice of intent, increased to 2,100 square feet under this notice of intent, which is approximately a change of 84 additional square feet. Driveway has also changed. The driveway has gone from 762 square feet to 1,486 640 square feet. And that is a change of 642 square feet, so an increase. Basically, the house, the 2,100 square feet, is being infiltrated again by Coltech chambers. And when we have, if Frank can bring that plan up, then we can show where those two locations are. And then the driveway, there is a slight increase to the 642 square feet, but it's actually still a reduction in stormwater going into the site stormwater management system or subdivision stormwater management system, because previously we had the 2,016 square feet from the roof going into the site's stormwater system. Now we're infiltrating it. We increased it to 2,100 feet, but we're infiltrating it again using Coltech chambers. So we're infiltrating into the ground. So basically, it's only a slight increase, which was already mitigated for the 642 square feet of the driveway, because we had previously 2,016 square feet going to the stormwater basin, the site stormwater management system. So we're not increasing at all. It's still actually overall it's a reduction. So it's still a betterment.
Frank, not to put pressure on you, any luck?
Yeah, I'm not having luck pulling this one up. I got it on my screen, but it doesn't seem to be showing up on yours.
So if you stop share and then try sharing again, that might work.
Trying to close a bunch of other superfluous windows that have nothing to do with this project. Sorry, I'm not seeming to be able to get this screen up for you right now.
Okay. I guess, is there any different staff comment on this one, Jennifer?
No.
Yeah, any comments or questions from members of the commission? Any members of the public here who would like to be heard on 29 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 2? As a reminder, you could also put questions in the comment box and we can see them. All right, seeing none. Any strong objections from members of the commission here? I know I'd ideally like to show the plan. Looks like
Oh, wait,
we
I think,
might have made some progress.
Get it up there finally. Whoop.
that looks like it.
Now just make sure you go
Exactly.
resource areas too, please.
Please.
So-
Garrett, can you just identify the resource areas and the infiltration basins for us?
Yes, so basically, if you look towards the rear of the house, you'll see Frank has created the yellow dashed line. That is the 100-foot wetland buffer. And if you look further to the right, on the opposite side of the house, you will see a blue dashed line. That is the 200-foot local riverfront area. Now, again, the area has been mitigated for when we filed the the subdivision notice of intent in regards to working in the riverfront. And we included all that mitigation for this work in that notice of intent, all the ecological restoration areas, wetland. We did a lot of the stormwater mitigation to make improvements, betterments. So basically here for the additional 84 square feet of the roof and the 642 square feet of the driveway, you will see an infiltrator unit on the eastern side of the house. That's on the right-hand side in the front of the house. You'll see another rectangle that says infiltrate on it. So those are the Coltech infiltration units. And then in the back of the house, in the center, you will see infiltrate as well, another rectangle where it says infiltrate. Those are also the other set of Coltech infiltration chambers. So those are the two sets of the chambers. That's what we used, of course, for mitigation, and that picks up the roof area.
Okay. Having now seen the plans, any questions or comments from members of the commission? Having now seen the plans, any questions or comments from members of the public? Garrett, I assume you'd like to close on this one.
Yes, please.
Motion to close the public hearing on 29 Owl Ridge Road, Lot 2.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Motion to issue a permit for work and order of conditions for 29 Owl Ridge, Lot 2.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks.
So turning back to continued hearings and possible deliberations, calling the next order of business, Washington Street, Mass DOT Highway Division application, notice of intent for road improvements on Washington Street from Dickerman Road to Elm Street.
Hello, first off, can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, we can see you.
Okay, sounds great. So for the record, my name is Matt Crowley. I am a professional engineer with Beta Group. We have a few other folks with me here tonight on the call. The first is Darshan Javeri. He is Beta's project manager. We also have Corey Beckwith, who is MassDOT's environmental representative. It's my understanding she may be having some technical difficulties. So we'll see if she can actually participate if needed. And we also have Tyler Drew, Beta's staff scientist. So I'd like to start by sharing my screen. Here we go. And let me know if folks can see the screen.
We can see the screen.
Okay, great. So I apologize. I'm working on a couple of screens here, so you may be looking at the side of my head for a portion of the presentation. So, all right. So first off, I'd like to just start off with a description of the overall project and then get into a little more detail regarding stormwater and some wetlands. So this is primarily a roadway improvement project along Washington Street, which is under MassDOT jurisdiction. The project begins just north of Dickerman Road on Washington Street and goes about 3/4 of a mile to the south, ending about 600 feet south of the intersection of Elm Street. The project also includes about 100 feet of Elm Street to the east of the intersection of Washington Street, and about another 600 feet to the west of the intersection, extending just beyond Frothingham Drive. So work on Washington Street primarily consists of adding sidewalks to both sides of the roadway and modifying cross-section to provide bike lanes, which is part of MassDOT's healthy transportation policy. And just to give you a little bit of a look of how that compares with the existing and proposed conditions, this is a typical section, which represents about 75% of Washington Street. The red lines here are really just to show the existing roadway width, and the blue lines above show what the proposed roadway width is going to be. So Really, the cross section is very similar, a little bit of widening, but obviously we are adding sidewalks on both sides of the roadway where none exist today. This is actually going to be more or less a continuation of a previous MassDOT project to the north of Dickerman Lane. And I can show you a little bit of what the change is going to look like. So this is a photo just from Google Street View. If Dickerman Road were to our back and we were looking towards the project area, this is the existing condition today. Obviously, you can see there's no sidewalks on the roadway. And if we were to spin 180 degrees and look in the opposite direction, this is the project that was completed previously. Dickerman Road would again be to our rear, but now we're looking to the north. See there's sidewalks on both sides of the roadway, and there's bike lanes out here. What will be a little bit different about this project from this picture here is it's actually going to be a little bit of a buffered bike lane. So you're going to have like a 2.5 foot buffer in between the traffic and the bike lane itself. And that is going to look more or less like this. This is sort of the typical layout with your bike lane, a 2.5 foot buffer, 11 foot travel lane, and essentially the same thing on the opposite side. Okay, so additional work along Washington Street also includes the intersection with Elm Street. Let me get back over here. There we go. So this is the intersection with Elm Street here. So currently this intersection is under stop control. Here is just an aerial photo just to give a bit better of a picture. As you can see, the east and westerly legs are not lined up with each other. It's a substandard intersection with a higher than normal crash rate. So what is proposed to be done here is to signalize the intersection as well as realign the western leg of Elm Street so it lines up with the eastern leg. And add some turning lanes for safety improvements. And I can show you what that'll look like in the final condition here. So as you can see, Elm Street now lines up. You have turning lanes on 3 of the 4 legs. And these blue lines just represent the existing curb line out there, just to give a little sense of how the intersection is being modified. Okay, so that is the general overview of the roadway work. Obviously, there'll be new signing and striping, ADA compliant ramps throughout the corridor, and some accessory utility improvements like upgrading some of the outdated fire hydrants out there. So next, I'd like to give a little overview of the stormwater on the project. So along the corridor, there is one low point, which is just to the south of Dolly's Way. And there's one high point, which is located about midpoint between Stillmore Drive and Elm Street. There are 4 discharge locations from the project, and I just kind of marked those with blue dots on the plan here. I will show the project plans in just a second to give a little more detail on those, but the first one is near the low point of the roadway, just south of Dolly's Way, excuse me. About 300 feet further south, there's another outfall on the west side of the project. Near the southerly project limits, the project terminates. However, the drainage system continues on. So that's our discharge location. And then there's a 4th location just beyond Frothingham Drive. So to give a little better picture of what's happening at each location. Again, this is Dolly's Way. This is the low point of the roadway. This carries, there's an existing outfall through a drainage easement today. It carries flow from both the project area and portions of the roadway to the north that are outside of the project. The pipe system is currently undersized. It's going to be upgraded to accommodate the 10-year design storm. We've provided a little match line here. This travels across a private parcel and eventually to an existing outfall to a wetland resource area. The current outfall is underwater, And what we're proposing to do is raise the outfall by about a foot to get it out of the water, and also pull it back to provide some scour protection, which does not exist today. On the next sheet, we have a very similar situation, except it's discharging to the west side of the roadway instead of the east side. Again, traveling across a private parcel through a drainage easement and discharging to a resource area. Again, pulling the outfall back and adding scour protection. This is the southerly project limits here, where we are just matching into the existing system, and essentially stormwater is going to go where it goes today. That's beyond the project limits. Upgrades to that system would typically take place on a future roadway project that's proposed adjacent to the existing outfall. And lastly, we have a outfall just to the west of Frothingham Drive, over in this location here, just beyond the project limits. So regarding stormwater, the project does have some fairly significant constraints that limit opportunities for improvements. Most notably is a very limited right-of-way in the proximity of both private residential and commercial features adjacent to the roadway. There's also some water infrastructure that kind of trails along the curb lines on both sides of the roadway, primarily along Washington Street. And there's also a concrete base located throughout Washington Street as well. So despite these restrictions, the project is proposing to install new deep sump catch basins throughout the project corridor, which will provide some treatment that does not exist today. We have received comments from your agent as part of the staff report. We have engaged in some preliminary discussions to resolve some of those concerns addressed in there. And it's also our understanding that you are going to have the project peer reviewed, and we are going to get a package out to the peer reviewer later this week for them to take a look at. And obviously we'll work with them to resolve any comments. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Tyler Drew, Beta staff scientist, who can give a little insight about the temporary wetland impacts on the project.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Tyler Drew. I'm on the permitting department for this project. So I'll just give a brief overview of the impacts. So this project is proposing 12 feet of temporary impact to bank, 271 square feet of temporary BVW impact, and 63 square feet of temporary land underwater impact. So impacts are associated with replacement of both of the outfalls that he just shown. So this is the first one here. So impacts are going to be associated with removing the outfall from its current location, backing it up, installing riprap stone, and all impacts are proposed to be temporary, associated with dewatering, construction access, and removing the structures themselves. In this case, there is 60 square feet of land underwater impact, 90 square feet of BVW impact, and 10 feet of bank impact, again, all temporary. And then they're proposing riprap stone to add some stormwater treatment before it discharges into the stream and the wetland there. And some stabilization of the slopes along that existing stream. So you can go to the next one. Thank you. So at this location, it's the same thing. They're proposing to remove the outfall and back it up to provide some additional room for treatment of stormwater. So in this area, it's 181 square feet of BVW impact, again, all temporary, 3 square feet of land underwater impact, and 2 feet of bank impact. So this is, they're proposing to remove the structure and then provide, 15 feet or so of space between the BVW boundary and the proposed outfall to install riprap stone to provide additional treatment. And I believe that's all.
Yes, those are all the temporary impacts that we have. So thank you, Tyler. I think at this point, we'd like to turn it over to the commission to answer any questions or hear some commentary they may have on the project.
Thank you. I found it to be a very in-depth and concise presentation. I think my biggest concern is just stormwater management, and I think I'm not the person who has a whole lot of say in what is and isn't an appropriate design. So I think getting peer review done would be very helpful to myself as a member of the commission. I think probably my peers here. But I think on its face, this is something that's very much needed in that area. I drive that way and take a left on Elm Street pretty much every day. And I'm very much looking forward to hopefully having a traffic light there at some point. Jennifer, any staff comment that you think we ought to address here?
I mean, there's no doubt that it is an important project that is needed. But we do need to make sure that they have proven that they will not impact negatively the wetlands or the abutters. And so we do have a number of comments for them to address, and we've done a Zoom meeting, at least one, right? We do have a peer reviewer who's already been retained. As soon as he gets the packet, he can start going through the package. I've done a site inspection, and we'll have additional comments from that site inspection for all of you. And yeah, my only other question was whether you sent the packet out to John yet, but you answered that question.
Perfect.
Maybe just say the two addresses where those outfalls are, because that does fall onto private property.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
So one of them is 111 Washington Street. And yeah, there is 108 Washington Street.
Okay, and the address for Elm Street.
170 Elm Street.
Okay, thank you.
So we have Darshan Javeri, Betas Project Manager. Darshan, were you waiting to say anything, or are you just here for questions if needed?
No, I'm just listening in. If you have any
Okay.
question, feel free. But this is the TIP project for the Mastod. So it'll be scheduled for next spring construction. So we would like to expedite the hearing because they are in the right-of-way process right now. So that should be done very soon. And we want to, the next submission we're doing at the end of the month or the beginning of the March would be final submission to MassDOT for their final review. And they went through the stormwater review and everything, which Matt presented to the project. Thank you.
Yep, sooner you get the packet to our review engineer, the sooner we can start thinking about some substantive issues. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
Questions or comments from members of the commission?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
Okay. Any members of the public here to ask questions or discuss this project? It's seeing none. Is going to continue this to the next meeting. Does that make sense? We're going to need a little more time for peer review.
Probably need more time than that.
Yeah.
The next meeting is March 4th, but they don't, he doesn't have the packet yet. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So meeting following that would be 25th?
Yes.
Is that track? Any objection? Right, so,
Yeah.
so I will.
Reviewed, so.
Yeah. I'm happy to put this on the 3-4 agenda, and if we don't have peer review, if that's helpful at all, we can continue it from there. Is that preferable?
You won't have comments by then.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll move this to. I'll do motion to continue. Hold on. I need to come up with a shorter name for this project. For Washington Street Mass DOT Highway Division project to the March 25th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spadea second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank
Aye.
you. Okay. Calling our next order of business, 16 Goodspeed Lane, which is a request for amendment on an existing order of conditions.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, we can see you.
All right. This is Scott Rogers from JK Homes Engineering. And I believe we met with you last on January 29th for this project. And the only comment I believe that was outstanding is we had a small area of stairs and walkways that went from the proposed driveway for that house down to the side and rear yard. That was about 112 square feet. That was added into the table of impervious coverage. So that increased slightly. And I believe that before that, we had addressed all of concerns from staff. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Could you put
Jennifer.
your hand up there and just show us the approved limit of work and the proposed limit of work?
See that or no?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on a sec. Or no?
We can see it.
Okay.
Could you just zoom in?
Yeah, let me go to sheet 2. That's a better blow up of it. So the area I was talking about is just south of the garage. You can see where it says steps.
Yep.
That was the area of the most recent change.
Okay. Looking at the two. Jennifer,
Yes.
we have new
Point that out
outstandings.
to us.
What's that?
Scott's going to point that out to us.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready, Scott.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. What was the question?
Point out the approved limit of work with the proposed limit of work, please.
If you can see obviously the wetland line is in green. The 50-foot buffer is in orange. So right next to the 50-foot buffer in the backyard, those areas where the posts are shown indicates that area that was approved last time. And mistakenly, I had pushed that a little bit further in towards the wetland. So that was readjusted to what was approved previously.
Okay,
That
so
makes sense.
are we proposing more work in the buffer zone? Or is
No,
this
From the approved plan to this plan, yes, there's about a 5-foot by 60-foot area.
Scott, is that your understanding here as well?
Area we're talking about, Jennifer, in the backyard?
Yes.
So the plan that you guys saw back probably, well, the original plan I did in December, and then the one you saw back in January, well, January has been fixed, but the one back in December, like I said, I kind of pushed that limit of work towards the east, not realizing that I did that based on what was approved before. So I pushed it back towards the west to what was approved before. So there's no change to the limit of work in that backyard area.
So then we can put in the order of conditions that the limit of work is where it is on the previous plan and this one will be updated?
This is the most current one that we've agreed upon.
Not sure that's accurate, Scott, from,
So I guess I'm having a hard time understanding this.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, so are you saying that there's no change, is there any change in the buffer zone to the back? 'Cause I think we were looking at a set of plans that showed like a 5 by 60 foot change in the buffer zone to the back of this project.
So back in December, when we were working on this project, there was an error by my part by pushing the limit of work closer to the wetland. Jennifer pointed that out in January, and this plan now shows the new limit of work that was approved by you guys back in 2022.
Okay.
And we went over the changes of this plan, what was approved before, as far as, the driveway is a little bit smaller than the old driveway. The house is a little bit bigger than the old house. We made improvements to the drainage system by adding that sediment forebay. But that was all discussed back in January. So from what I heard from the hearing last time and what Jennifer and I had discussed back in January, everything was taken care of short of the discussion about what those steps were about.
Okay.
so I will look at the plans that we received after the last meeting, after the discussion, and if there are any changes, they will be reflected in the order of conditions.
Okay. All right, I think that makes sense. Any further comments from members of the commission on this?
None for me.
Any comments from the public regarding the proposed changes to 16 Goodspeed? I guess motion to approve a request for amendment Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Scott, I assume you'd like to close.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing on 16 Goodspeed Lane.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Motion to approve the request for amendment for 16 Goodspeed Lane. I guess noting our conversation about the buffer zone change and just reflecting that the final set of plans will be further reviewed by the applicant, by our agent.
Thank you.
Speedy, second.
Carol motion, Spady second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Thank you, Scott.
Very much. Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Next up is a request for extension. We'll begin with 9 Reardon Way, also known as 82R Lincoln Street, EB Development. Applicants Collins Civil Engineering, request for extension of an order of conditions to construct a single-family home.
Correct. At the last meeting, we discussed the requirement for a surety. That surety has been posted. It is an appropriate amount, and the surety agreement has been received. So
Very good.
the wetland work has been done yet, so they definitely need at least 2 years for the monitoring report. So extension for 2 years appropriate.
Okay. Motion to issue a 2-year extension on 9 Reardon Way.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Next order of business, 38 Randall Street, Caitlin Roach. Request for extension of an order of conditions for a single-family home with additional tree clearing.
Yeah, they're permit's about to expire and they do have work that they are still waiting to do. And then we're waiting for the conservation restriction to be approved from EEA. So it's appropriate to issue that extension.
So is work pending our hearing back from EEA?
Correct.
Okay, and how long has that been pending?
The permit was issued, I want to say toward the end of the year. Stephanie, do you have the exact date? I don't have it on.
So you, hold on. You guys signed the conservation restriction in September. It was submitted on November 6th to the DCS. And we're just in a holding pattern while it sits. We've heard that wait times can be up to a year.
Okay. And I think in our order of conditions, work can't start until that's back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were actually asking if at least some of the trees that are possibly going to fall down or in just bad shape, if we could remove those while we're waiting.
No, I'm absolutely not opposed to it. I'm just kind of thinking through how we do it, right? So we have an existing order of conditions that says no work until EEA, but I don't think any of us thought it was going to take this long to get EEA. And it sounds to me like the applicant has done what they can to get it there. I mean, I'm not an expert at this. Jennifer, any reason we can't allow the clearing of at least some requested trees here?
Not if the commission chooses to do that, yeah.
Okay. And then same thing with, I guess, I don't want to revise an order of conditions, but we've been in this situation. So
you have two things here. You have two motions. So you have a request for an extension. And we didn't say how long. So is it a year, 2 years? Do you know what the request is, Stephanie?
We're, I guess, put in for 2 years, hoping that it won't take that long to get the approval back from the state.
I would hope.
I would do that one first.
All right, so let's do let me make this motion so I'm not conflating this. Motion to grant a 2-year extension on 38 Randall Street.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay. And now we have this other issue.
Your other one is they're requesting a minor modification to allow, I'm going to say, a few hazard trees to be removed in anticipation of the signing of the conservation restriction by EEA. Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I guess what I would say is if we don't have some progress on this, come back. And we'll figure it out. Because I do think that the applicant has done kind of what they can do, and now we're sort of at the whim of the state. So I'll do motion to approve the requested minor modification to allow the cutting of some designated problem trees.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So turning next to certificates of compliance, 15 Vineyard Place.
That one's ready for a full certificate of compliance.
Let's do it. Motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 15 Vineyard Place.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
7 Elderberry.
We're still holding out for some documents to be submitted to us. I understand that it's going to take a while to get the documentation that's required. And so rather than continue every meeting, we're just going to take this off the agenda and they can reapply when they're ready.
Do we need a motion for that? Okay. So then let's go to enforcement. 5 Jonathan Drive. Where are we here?
The homeowner is interested in continuing to try to do this work on his own. We've done 2 site inspections since I was notified that the work has been completed. It has not been completed yet.
Is the homeowner present tonight? Is he here?
No.
Okay.
Did you give him to the end of this month or end of last month?
I believe we gave him to the end of this month to get it done.
Correct.
I just wasn't sure where I think there were some emails and a request that we potentially allow him to do the work himself. I wasn't sure if he would show up at the meeting and maybe discuss like means and methods of what that plan might look like.
Mm-hmm.
It appears to be beyond
Yeah.
ability to do that.
I think at this point we've tried that. I think we need to see evidence that a professional has been retained to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's highly suggested at this point. It should definitely go that route. I think I went to the site and I think the result of what has been done is a little further past, say, a personal homeowner's expertise. I think there's a lot more there than you'd have the ability to do at this point, I believe. It's very different from the other side of the stream. We'll just go from that.
So the homeowner has been contacted that he does need to hire or retain professional services to perform that work. And so if you've given him till the end of this month, then we can do the inspection at the beginning of March. And if that has not been completed, then you would have to take further enforcement action, unfortunately.
So just logistically, like, and I really don't know, is this work that can be done now? Like, or is this work that ought to be done closer to spring? Like,
it can still be done now. There's not so much water flowing through the stream that they can't be effective doing the work that needs to be done.
Okay. Then yeah, I think that plan makes sense.
Jen, just out of curiosity,
$5,000 a month.
did he say today that he finished it or completed it?
I don't recall that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that came in today. Okay.
Okay, so to the end of February.
Yes. Short month.
I thought it was January, but but you're giving till February. That's fine. It's actually a longer month because we have leap year. One extra day.
I need every day I can get this year.
Okay, and then you meet March 4th. So March 4th, before then, I'll do another inspection, and then I guess you'll decide at the March 4th meeting how you want to, if you need to pursue.
Anything else?
Fines or whatever.
I think that is the path forward there.
Yes.
So anything else on 5, Jonathan? So next up is 230 Main Street, clearing vegetation within the wetland.
Yep, we received the restoration plan. I've gone over it. I do have some questions. I'm meeting with the consultant on Friday.
Okay. Any further action needed from us? Okay.
These are just updates now.
24 Summer Street, cutting vegetation near the wetland.
You sent the enforcement order the beginning of February. You gave until February 26th to submit their documentation and to appear at the 3-4 meeting.
Any response?
No.
None to date. 109 Rockland Street.
You gave the same time frame. This is a enforcement order that had already been issued, so this was an email reminder.
And any response?
No.
Okay. And then release 55 Quanticket for restoration work.
Correct. Looks like the restoration work has been done. We didn't receive the 2 years of monitoring reports, but the final monitoring report does show 75% vegetated cover, and we can release the surety that has been held.
Okay. Do we need a motion to release the surety?
Yeah, please.
All right, so motion to release the surety because work has been completed for 55 Quantico.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Very good. Al, you're up with your minutes.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to accept the January 29th, 2004 meeting minutes as amended.
Spady, a second.
Benson motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Chair updates. Mike, I feel like I had something else to add here.
Trails?
Trails. So I think we've had some conversation around some new features being added to trails. So we ought to talk about that, and then I think we also ought to talk about I think potentially like an initiative to better mark the trails of some of our existing properties and what the best way to do that might be. So first and foremost, I think is some additional mountain biking features have been added to some of our hiking trails. And I think, although I understand the eagerness to add stuff and to use those trails and I appreciate it, I just think we need an update when things are planned, and we need some approval to make additions and or changes to any of the trails on conservation property. So I would just ask that sort of be made known.
Yes.
And I think that sort of dovetails into, like, Mike and I were having a conversation about a lot of our trails and properties are just a little confusing, and the trail markers have sort of faded over time. And I think it would be a really nice initiative that I think Mike has, I'm putting him on the spot, but it's sort of volunteered to lead, where maybe we add some new markers to make the trails a little bit more accessible to folks. I think particularly at like Clifford Grant and at Flyway, it's just a little easy to get lost with sort of outshoots that have happened over the years historically from hunters and other people using it to get to a location they want to access. So it can be confusing to tell where the main trail actually leads versus where someone has just sort of added a pathway that we again goes to what we do or don't know about happening on our conservation properties. So I think like, and Jennifer, I don't know if you have a strong opinion as to what the best way to mark trails would be. I know like at Clifford Grant, it's really been essentially colored spray paint on trees.
Right.
I don't know if there's a better way to do that.
No, that's pretty standard. It's pretty typical to use different colored paints and then a standardized system of what symbols are being used.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So Mike, maybe you and I and Jennifer, or you and Jennifer, however we shake it out, could meet and just come up with a plan as to how to do it. Because I think there's also like, we have formal trail maps for these places that I'm not sure always line up with exactly what the trails are. And I think you probably use them about as much as anyone else in town. So you're probably the best person to designate the colored loops.
Yes, that'd be good.
Yeah, but like Clifford Grant, I'm not sure that it even matches up. Like the colors match up with the trail map at the head of the parking lot.
Every trail is red. You
Yeah,
get an intersection and all four intersections have a red trail. It's
Unless you're in the way back right, and it's like all sorts of colors. It's like a disco.
is there any way to delete the colors that are already on the trees?
I got an actual. Just kidding. We'll do a little white out.
But I think like a little thought into that, it could make them a little bit more user friendly for people and less intimidating.
You can save it for a fire too, just to rescue people. Just have them get a better indication of where somebody is in a timely event. You know, it's huge.
It's a really good point.
been through a few rescues in the woods before, and you make it faster, be better. So, especially too, if we can mark, just to throw it out there, mark like ATV use trails, if we had to get a stretcher in quickly, that'd be good to have right away, so we can say, okay, this is a fast trail for quick exit and entrance.
I'm in.
Cool.
I think we're on to environmental planner updates.
Okay, we had gotten an estimate for a pellet stove for the workshop for our tenant. The tenant called and said, that seems like a bit too much money. And so we're going to continue looking at other options for him. And, you know, it's his suggestion to just hang on to it and invest it in the house if and when we're able to do that. So we can take that off the agenda for now. The parking lot plan, I know they are getting closer to filing the wetland permit application for it. So we should have that pretty soon, I think.
Good.
And the notice went in the town crier that people should not be trying to open doors and gates and trailers and things like that. So the driveway is now locked with a chain across it. And I understand from the tenant that people have stopped trying to open doors and barns and gates where animals are.
That's productive.
Great, definitely helps.
Yeah, yep. DEP reg changes, the comment period has changed. It's not March 1st anymore, it's now April 30th, so that's good. There's a lot to review and I'm not even halfway through it. And then I don't have anything else for that, but item that we were not anticipating is 560 Foundry. This would be their minor modification number 4. And that is to change some of the house shapes and sizes have changed. They may have gotten bigger, but then the driveways have gotten smaller and vice versa. So they have provided a table and the letter that should have been in your binder asking for it to be a minor change. The overall all house lots and all impervious cover is actually minus 384 square feet. So it is a reduction. We did receive revised plans so we can keep track of it. And I think you're okay to issue that as a minor modification letter.
I'm okay with reduction. So it's motion to issue minor modification 560 Foundry Street as requested.
Benson second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you, everyone.
There you go.
Thanks, everyone. And Mike, I found it.
Oh, did you? Yes. All right. Right on. Good stuff.